Good morning and welcome back to Morning Express. We are on the way. It is analyzing the stories we've been covering for you in the past few days. One of the big stories, gentlemen, that we still break last week was the ICC court come out to, International Criminal Court, not ICC court, come out to summon the president for a status conference. So a lot has been said about the case losing steam and that Bensouda should just call it a day. And now we're back to the drawing board, questions on whether he should go or not. Of course, his team has requested that if it has to happen on the 8th of October, it'd be via video link because of his other commitments. What do you make of this, Senator?
Let's hear Weda.
Let's hear Weda first. Okay.
I think we discussed it here last time.
Should he go for the status conference? Yes.
If the court has ordered, because the court ordered that he goes, the only logical way is to ask the same court either to discharge that order or to vary it by allowing him, but either to do it by a video link. But if the court insists, then my professional position is that he should go. He should go. If he doesn't go, it will give Madam Bensouda, a lifeline. Because when you don't attend court, they leave everything else. Then they say, okay, where is the accused? Is not there. Then there'll be warrants. Then our president will be a fugitive. Now, as a fugitive, the court coalition, the court wing of the country will be celebrating.
Yes, some have even come out to tell him not to go.
Yes, so that it doesn't go, so that it gives them some lifeline of ability if they can maneuver to get power. Otherwise, and what I know is that the president has his lawyers there, and the Attorney General is here. Everything that he will do will be in accordance with the law. He will do the right thing, and the right thing is either to have the order discharged, varied. If they insist, he will go. After all, the case was manufactured. The truth is coming out that people were paid and bribed and given stories to sign. Now they realize there's intense cross-examination there. They don't want to subject themselves. So they're coming out. But it is at the status conference again that the court will then be able to ask Madam Bensouda, tell us, what do you want? So I want you to adjourn it. I don't have evidence, but adjourn it forever. That is also the time when you'll be able to say, no, we will not adjourn it. We will discharge the accused person. Okay. If you come by evidence, please let us know.
A quick comment, Senator, before we move on.
I think nobody celebrates in anybody's predicament. And one thing is, we just hope that they will not, the president will not do anything that jeopardizes this country. Because I think when he gets himself...
Anything like what?
Like not attending the status conference. Because if he doesn't do so, I think he
becomes a fugitive.
He becomes a fugitive, as Wakili Weda said. And once he becomes a fugitive, I think there will be a lot of spotlight on this country, and it will literally limit his travels. It will limit, you know, the extent of international cooperation, and I think it will jeopardize the country. Okay. But I read, if I'm not wrong, I read in your media, it's not that he's just saying he wants it on video link. He says he's not available for that particular day of the 8th October, even via video link. I hope my hope is that the ICC judges will also play along the politics of the Kenyan fabric, because the office of the prosecutor is different from the judges. I hope they will also know how to navigate the Kenyan politics, not to give him the martyrdom status. If he says as a president or head of state that is not available on that 8th, let the lawyers suggest when he's available.
Yeah, when it suits everybody.
Therefore, so that you do not get him to have, you know, these types of his who now start to say how Kenya's sovereignty is under attack, and hearing a lawyer like my brother Kindiki speak like a native who's not even been out of the confines of you know, some little, you know, village school. So I think, so as not to allow that kind of situation, I think it will be in order if I was sitting as a judge, particularly the Ghanaian judge who understands the fabrics of the African society, he should be able to grant that convenience. So because they fix that date unilaterally, and many a times I have seen in court where the judges ask the parties when are you available?
Is everybody okay with a date?
Defense, prosecution, and then they take a date. I hope he can do such a thing, and grant him even the request for a video link, so that we do not you play into the fabrics of the politics of the country, because also you need to mitigate public policy as judges. So I think they need to appreciate the rationale here, that you do not, what Uhuru is trying to do is to say I'm not available, so that then he'll get this brigade of his to come and say how our sovereignty is under attack, how they want to destroy us. So I think he needs to, they need to grant him some of these preliminary requests that he has put forth.
Okay, let the truth be said. Summoning him for the status conference on a case which has been admitted to be ill-fated was itself in bad faith. It is just either to show the world that we are a strong court, we can summon a sitting president, let him come. It is only that humility on our side. That is what we exercise and say, let us exercise humility and go. Otherwise, what they have done is not in good faith, is not proper.
Now, you see, they have not summoned, yes, Uhuru carries the tag of head of state wherever he goes, but they have summoned him in that capacity as Uhuru Kenyatta.
But it's impossible to now disassociate.
That's what I'm saying. But number two, there are certain, for me, I know that I said the lawyer contradicts himself time and again. You see, they want to go and determine, if you read the documentation, the extent of cooperation or lack thereof of Uhuru Kenyatta in terms of the information that was requested either from the Kenyan government or from himself by the office of the prosecutor. The judges could actually make a determination that that extent of cooperation has been sufficient, and therefore if Bensouda is unable to proceed on the basis or the strength of the cooperation is so far received from the Kenya government, then there is no basis for...
Or will he be examined by prosecution? Because if he's just going to be there to sit, the lawyer's doing all the work.
The process is such that I think the prosecution might want to carry that pleasure of cross-examination. But then he is also has the right, I think, through his lawyers to say that he does not necessarily need to be undertaken through that cross-examination. These are processes in court. So I think what has happened is, once one side, the Weda says, let him go, so that probably could be a determination. It's not the start of the trial. It's simply saying
to determine even whether there's going to be a trial.
Yes. So I think what the judges are doing, in my view, is reasonable in the discharge of their mandate to ensure that they are able to satisfy themselves of all facts available to them and make a determination.
Let's move on to Jubilee's pet project, the laptops promised to the Standard 1 pupils, and that has been taken back to square one by the court, nullifying the tender that had been granted to Olive. Do you think, first, what do you make of that ruling and what the judges cited as having nullified this tender?
To the extent that it is not a decision, it is quite in order. I didn't have the advantage of perusing deeply the salient issues that were raised. So whatever they raised may have been right or wrong, but it is a decision which has to be complied with. I had said in this show, if you recall, at that time, that taking into account the financial challenges and the issues of the pledge, it would have been right at that time for Jubilee administration to say, look, for now, although we promised to give you laptops on the 1st of January of the year, we were outside government. We didn't know how much was in the coffers. We didn't know how much Senator Omar will be demanding for his counties. So this will be pushed forward to another 3 years, so that on the 3rd year we put aside funds and we do all this. So to the extent that it has postponed that expenditure under difficult circumstances, it is good for the Jubilee administration. The only challenge is that it has to be fulfilled before 2017. So, but we also as Kenyans must realize that our tendering process has turned into a nightmare. Nothing moves. The counties are not moving because tendering. So we will have to relook at the law on tendering process.
Okay, Senator.
So that we move forward.
The nullification demonstrates that Jubilee is not only corrupt to the bone, it's corrupt to the bone marrow. This is the corruption we're talking about. every mega project, the billion-plus projects, has been controversial. The standard gauge railway, I mean, there are many experts' opinion which demonstrates that we are not getting value for money and all that kind of stuff. The president had to convene his entire cabinet and grandstand and say that we've done it and we're going to proceed with it. Talk about the coal project in Lamu, the 174 billion award, which is now also before the courts. Talk about any major project, there is a major scam in it. And that's the kind, because these are major infrastructure, major contracts of government, where in one sitting you're able to reimburse yourselves the campaign monies that you spend and build another watches for the next campaign. So I think it's the kinds of corruption we're talking about. It's not the cumbersome nature of our procurement regulation or nightmarish nature. This is the law. And if the law then is the law, then it must be followed as long as it is in force. And if we think it's a bad law, then we amend it eventually. But these are caveats, you know, to ensure that you do not give undue advantage to people who, just because they sit in a primary position, to be able to influence, you know, quotas across the board, for you to earmark people because you have taken your commissions or you have gotten into a certain deal or contract. So I think that's the manifestation, and the courts in some regards are robust in that nature in terms of evaluating whether the award conformed with the provisions of the law, and it did not. And I think many others were to follow suit. If it wasn't for the grandstand in the standard gauge railway, so this shows you how money is being looted because people prefer certain kinds of people, no value for money for what we are doing. And I think it's something we have to consider.
So what is not the procedures, it's graft that is really at the heart of the problem you're describing. Omar,
yes. It's like the coffers have been turned upside down. The Jubilee administration has just turned upside down the coffers and taken the money. They are seeing, as opposition, they are seeing corruption in every corner.
But there is corruption, you do it.
Now, the grounds upon which the tender was set aside was not corruption. It was not corruption. Those who lost the tender went in and said, no, we were better for this, you didn't comply with the rule like this. It was not corruption. No, but in terms of the general tendering process in Kenya, as he was saying, it is difficult, even at the county level, just supplying newspapers. There are court cases all over just because of the law regarding tendering. And it has been said in Parliament that we have to relook at it, because every year money is returned to the treasury from the counties, from the ministries. Why? Because by the time that the financial year was ending, the tendering process had not been completed. Because if you tender in March and you want to start a project in April so that you spend the money, immediately the other person challenges it. The whole process stops. And it takes a year. That project is stalled. This they don't understand as our lawmakers. Since they don't understand, they're just seeing corruption in every corner. We are in deeper problems. It was them to understand and say, look, could there be a loophole that is making this project, that's making the counties, that's making the ministries return money every year? How do we correct this? But they have buried their heads in the sand and they're saying corruption. Corruption. So
there's corruption in the process. I mean, it's common knowledge. You see, there are things that you cannot deny. Facts are facts. And whenever you take judicial notice of the fact that if there was a flawless process that was accountable, that was transparent, we'll not be having the court nullified. That simply means there's an abuse of office element, there is floating of regulations. That broadly
also has this space that has been created become too big and also just an enemy to that democracy we're trying to open up.
You know, lately I've started to appreciate Kibaki a lot more after his exit. And people have started telling me, and I've spoken so meticulously about him in many forums, after seeing what this, so to speak, digital have done, that type you tend to appreciate the reasonable nature of Mwai Kibaki in many of these issues. Mwai Kibaki's legacy, as he wanted it to be located in the discourse of the nation, is infrastructure. He look at the major infrastructure that we saw. In fact, many of these that have been launched by Jubilee now were processes that were started by Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga in that grand coalition government. How many times did you see anybody go to court to stop an issue? Because you see, there was that diligence. Even if you wanted to award Sophia Wanuna Esquire, You will try to, wherever practically possible, to be meticulous in procedure. You do not, don't try to rush, have a mad rush, so that you can now get everything and start to implement and start to make money first. The old man took his time. We saw things happening. Nobody went to court. The tenders were opened up, procedurally. You did not award the person who was fourth, and therefore nobody had issues there. But if we say that we flout the very regulations, we will go to court, and those people who are bidding will go to court.
Okay. You can see that. The senator himself is living in the past, just like I hear others saying, oh, it was during Moi's time, oh, it was during Kibaki's time. The reality today is that at the end of every financial year, the county monies are returned to the treasury. Okay? The ministries are returning money to the treasury, and they are all saying the tendering process.
So you maintain that
as a legislator, as a legislator, it was incumbent upon them. Please let me finish.
Kibaki is not the past. Kibaki is just last year and the year before.
And there were tendering processes at that particular time. So why did they work then?
Some of those tenders were awarded almost 5 years earlier.
But the same procedure.
They were awarded.
5 years is also not the past. 5 years is a recent past.
You stick to tendering processes are not working. You say corruption is the biggest problem. Let's move on to IEBC internal audit that was released last week. What do you have to say on what some of the things that came out from that report? One of them being that they considered in terms of some of the challenges that they knew going into the election existed, and the failure by the electronic devices that we saw across the board.
That's why we're asking for its disbandment. You didn't see for them to be insincere to the country. You know, we've had such an informal discussions with even people who, let's say, who work with certain, service providers. They said they told them this thing is not going to work. They were cautionary notes. So it is false pretenses, or to give Kenyans the fraudulent perception that they're going into electronic voting that collapses within the first hour or two of the opening of the voting process. And I think they should have been sincere about the challenges and let us develop a framework, because some of us, the kind of preparations we made was on the basis that process was a bit flawless, or it was effective in the manner in terms of with regard to tallying. If we knew that this whole thing was going to collapse, probably people would have used different strategies. If we knew that it was going to be a manual voting system. So therefore, I think IEBC has polarized this country in manners that we find it difficult to move on.
However, Johan Kriegler, retired judge, comes and gives them a clean bill of health, says under the circumstances they did a splendid job.
That's one opinion, and I think
he was involved in coming up with those reforms.
There are those people who are involved in the same reforms who believe that it did not meet up the expectations, including the courts itself. Even the Supreme Court was the one that directed further investigations, and that's why we have the CEO of Swago in court and a few other people in court because of having fraudulently deceived this nation. So I think there will be a myriad of opinions. You see, somebody will tell you that under the circumstances you did a good job. It doesn't mean that I could just be giving you credit that you might have attempted to do something.
And you still want them to conduct the referendum, and despite you wanting them to disband it.
That is our secret weapon in terms of the referendum, because we know right now. The other day, the IEBC has been trying to have a redemptive strategy. We believe, even though these little mini elections they've conducted in a manner that almost ascribes to the standards set out in law and the Constitution, is basically a redemptive strategy. But you see, what we have is, in the final analysis, is that IEBC the other day, with respect to this young man from Nyeri, who went to court to try to stop us, these attention seekers, it's his name.
Kanini Kega?
Yeah, that guy.
A member of parliament.
Yeah. What happens, he goes to court to try and stop us from proceeding. If you look at the affidavit filed by the IEBC as one of the respondents, it was a game changer. IEBC said what court is doing is totally in order. They quoted provisions of the law, the articles under the popular initiative.
Of course they would say that. They would not take a position and say, no, they're wrong to call for a referendum.
No, you see, nothing, when you're a respondent, nothing stops you from, because their position was that, yes, this is the process by way of general popular initiative is accurate, by way of general suggestions is accurate, that it is ultimately, when the bill is taken to them, that they will make a verification as to whether the bill ascribes to the general suggestions that the Kenyans have ascribed to.
So whether should they be disbanded based on what perhaps you've been able to read and get from that internal audit?
When you hear the senator talking endlessly in a selective manner, one thing which is very clear, prior to the 2013 elections, the chairman of IEBC, Isaac, said it is too late for these BVR things. It is too late, it will not work. None other than Honorable Raila Odinga took the mantle and said it is government to government tendering. It has to be done, you have to implement it. They have now selectively and deliberately turned it into the Oswagos and Isaac's problem. That kind of dishonesty is what is bringing this country down. Number two, IEBC is just a name. IEBC. Under IEBC, they are individuals. The individuals who are doing good, the individuals who also do mistakes. We cannot burn a whole house because there are cockroaches inside. If there's a cockroach, you use doom or whatever. Now, they have not singled out that because according to them, they want to frustrate the country by demolish this, demolish that, remove that, yet they don't acknowledge we made a mistake ourselves. We insisted when IEBC itself had said, it is late, we cannot do it. That dishonesty is bringing this country down. You people, stop it.
What I wanted to say is
there dishonesty?
That's contemptuous. You see, what happens is when you are in a public office and I give you a certain responsibility, I was in a commission too, you must then be able to reasonably say it is not possible even after certain interventions. There is a way in which you must disclose to public. We used to disclose our challenges every day at the KNCHR. So
IEBC did not disclose the challenges?
They fraudulently got us to believe that we were going into a process that was foolproof. And I think it is important that audit report is testimony of the fact. The audit report, it takes places, once this whole process has been commenced, then the principal responsibility now lays in that independent commission. That's why it's an independent commission. It must be in a position to assert itself and say that these are some of the challenges we have, and in the circumstances, let's stick to our conventional manual voting. But that brings me to the second issue. I think last week you did see that we had a Congress where we did invite our MCAs as part of the elected leadership. Right now, the most critical constituency within the referendum debate is the MCAs.
Oh, yes.
Because 47 MCAs will be voting on the referendum bill in the very near future. I presuppose by January, February, that bill should be within all the assemblies. And those MCAs will make that determination. 24 out of the 47 MCAs are required for us to go into the referendum. So what has happened is, since the views that have come through, the committee of experts through the chair, Paul Mwangi, have put together the compilation of the views so far received. And there's also room for more public input into these views before they arrive to what we call the final bill. So therefore, I think the critical issues here are fundamental is devolution in terms of resources. We have issues around land reforms. We have issues around education. So it would be important, and I think CORD will try to disseminate part of this information so that people can be able to see it.
As a fine lawyer, I would remind him, the issue was whether IEBC led us when they knew the BVR kits would not work. IEBC said it. Honorable Raila Odinga, then Prime Minister and co-principal, 50-50% power sharing, said no. And he championed the buying of those things, government to government. Let them acknowledge that and say, here we fell short of glory, and then there was a problem. Instead of now denying and going into MCAs, they are critical, they will know, they will do this, and that is published. When that time comes again, we will deal with it. And you will see why how the MCAs will vote.
Let's go to the meeting that you had called at...
bottom line is what I just told them.
Yes. Which
After, even once you are given instructions, you take personal responsibility for whatever the outcome is.
All right.
Yes.
Some of the issues that came out from that is that some of the things that CORD is planning to also put into the referendum is cutting down presidential powers, special returning officers for presidential elections, so it's not the same as the other elective positions, and devolution of AP service, administration, police service, so you have some of the police under the counties.
You see, what as I said, those are views so far that have come through, because we have created a framework where people can continue to submit views to the committee of experts through email, through written memoranda.
So these are people's views?
So what has happened is they have been collected. And what the committee of experts has done is to publish the preliminary, views. So I think they are suggestions. Not only of what you've just said, yes, those are suggestions right now that have come through, trimming down of presidential powers, the views around a devolution of the APs so that they can be able to have certain, governance can have certain leverage in terms of county security, but still retain a certain structure that gets them to report at the national level. There is about devolution of education, not the quality but the infrastructure of education, so that county governments are able to build schools. Those are views coming in. What will be the finality is when that bill is published. So that then you can say these are no longer views, this is a bill. And that bill is also not final. The IEBC will go and do like what is it called? A check to see whether each and every proposal in that bill meets the kind of general suggestions that people ascribe their signatures to. If they are out of those general suggestions, then the IEBC has the leverage to alter or amend that bill and then arrive to the final bill that ascribes to the views.
You can see that their true intent is coming out. Originally, they took cover under devolution and money to the counties. But the key intention is to cripple the national government. That is why they are saying, devolution, let's just deny them all the funds first, and then a case of sour grapes, clip all the powers of the president, so that is a ceremonial president. That is exactly what they are doing. But they are testing the waters. They say, now, we will strip the president of these powers, we'll strip the country of these powers, we'll strip this, so that if we don't get that power, then it should as well not exist. You people, even if Honorable Raila Odinga does not become president, Hassan Omar may be president. And to keep this country together, you must have a certain limited amount of power that helps. This thing of going round, we want to clip this, we want 45% of the money, we want to remove so and so, we want to devolve security, why can't you just fight for power? 2017, round one, you lose again. 2022, we can meet, you are running, I'm running. What is all this?
So you're saying there's no merit in any of the issues they're raising?
What I'm saying,
there's no merit in any of the issues being raised?
Originally, I've said they were taking cover under money to the devolved system. But now the truth, as you can see, what their original intention is now emerging. But they're testing waters. So when it comes out, you can see Omar saying, no, those are just questions. We don't, but they want to see how people respond.
We are not gagging.
But the intention is to clip the powers of the president to make him a ceremonial president. If you make a ceremonial president in this country, there will be no country.
All right.
He's talking as if Uhuru will be life president. When you love someone, you have to limit your level of psychophancy. I love Kenya. You have to limit your level of psychophancy. What happens is because we as you said, there's a practical possibility that somebody else will be president tomorrow. Oppositions today. Just let me finish. Oppositions today become governments tomorrow. Governments today become oppositions tomorrow. So that's said and done. I think we look at posterity, but you look also in terms of the overall net goal in terms of what was the issues that got us to the struggle for constitution and constitutionalism. So I think in the interim, people are bringing in views, and there are those who still feel the presidency probably is extremely imperial. And therefore, what we were doing in the Kenyan context at that time when we were amending...
Do you feel the same way?
Personally, I feel the presidency right now has just reasonable powers. It has sufficient caveats, yeah, in terms of oversight, in terms of he can't appoint cabinets without the National Assembly, but not the kind of mob that is led by Duale. We hope that eventually the National Assembly will evolve into a more robust assembly that is able to audit and hold to account even the president.
So you don't
that
think
comes
they
from
need to clip the powers?
No, I think right now, in my own view, it is reasonable. It is reasonable because we have put caveats, but we have also seen that these caveats can be subject to abuse. But the one thing that is definitely abusive in terms of the presidential powers as they have been so interpreted is the restructuring of the provincial administration with what they have done to it is an actual abuse. So those are some of the areas that one needs to clarify and to be very assertive with respect to the Constitution, so that then there's no contradictions and overlaps, and there are no interpretations that tend to outskip or overflow from your mandate. So, but in the totality, I think there are areas that are reasonable, because if we have a functional democracy where all institutions view the separation of powers, that the National Assembly knows that it is not the appendage of the executive or the government in power, I think there is always a lot of energy. There's a lot of creativity that always comes from competition and audit. In fact, accountability makes us better human beings.
One of the other issues is inclusivity, and yesterday the former Prime Minister was talking about the fact that he was saying, not the fact, that there are only 2 tribes that make up majority of public service. But isn't that false compared to what we saw in Parliament the other day when the ambassadors were appointed, and there was overwhelming support from court as well?
Yes, because you see, that's one list. You see, you have to look at the broader structure of the public service. Well,
when he makes these pronouncements, he's not giving the specifics. So when he makes that general statement, then the interpretation will be as such as well.
And you see, Sophia, for us, you see, in fact, this guy should be made ambassador. These are small little jobs. You can give them. But what makes you powerful is the instruments that matter. Okay. Instruments of national security.
National security.
Instruments of finance. That is what makes you powerful, Sophia. I can give you all the rest. I can give it to you. People like Weda, I can give them tribunals to chairs, for judges. I can give them every other thing. I can give him the chairman of some arid board. Well, I keep all the major corporations.
So they're keeping the major ones. You said security, finance.
Security and finance, for me, will be the most critical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Weda?
I think, first of all, with respect, you are senior by many years. Many years. So you don't say this guy should be given some board, or you must know that I'm one of the few people who have been in the private sector throughout. The little you have done has been at the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, where we think you people crooked up evidence against the president or the deputy. And now the truth is coming out and you are running away from it. That's the only thing you people have done. Nothing much. Some of us have been driving the engine of this country.
Have 2 tribes dominated security and finance in Kenya?
You must remember, one, they should start by acknowledging when the president did his major appointments, the recent one were the major appointments. They said he did a good job. Others have been trying to replace those people who were there before. And you don't replace them with people from outside. You replace them from people inside. People who have been there. Deputy this, deputy that, deputy that. Some of these teams were lined up by President Kibaki and Honorable Raila Odinga. They were together when they were lining all these people.
So you're saying it's not a Jubilee problem, it's been there?
Yes, and from the last major appointment by the president, you can see it is being resolved. As at now, you can clearly say, okay, 1 or 2 communities are dominating, especially the security sector. But it's a long-term problem that requires a long-term solution. Now, these people now are making noise, okay? When they have the power is in them to tell the president, we are not taking Karangi, go back, we are not taking this. They don't want, because what they want is to throw mud.
Yes.
throw mud instead of using the power they have. They want to throw mud, and that you should allow the president an opportunity after 5 years. That is when you analyze and say, did you give too many jobs to Kikuyus or Kalenjins?
Okay.
This is, but
one of the biggest follies of human achievement
very briefly
is self-praise. You see, like when you start to say, I did this and I did that. In fact, in Islam, it's deterred. You let others. You forget about Islam. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't forget about it myself. So I think in terms of public conduct, let people do their bidding. And then, you know, the propaganda statements from people like Weda about how we cocked up with the ICC. I have waited all along. I have waited to hear the names of those who were, so to speak, the people who actually procured and coached the witnesses. If I recall the names that have been provided by the Ruto defense so far, they appear to me as people who were in Kibaki's administration, at the very heart of Kibaki's administration, and none of them is a member of the KNCHR so far. So I think you see, when you're a senior lawyer, as you say you ascribe to be, you have to be factual. You have to be factual.
Gentlemen, we need to wrap it up. But I need to ask you this very briefly, in less than a minute. The MCA is asking for guns and bodyguards. Your thoughts, Weda, less than a minute. Some feel these guys are going rogue. What do you think?
I think their concerns about security are legitimate, but that calls upon us as a country and then the national government to address security in such a way that people do not feel so threatened that they need their own personal guard. But the way the MCAs have conducted themselves, even in their own assemblies, you saw in Garissa, some place, the way they punch each other and they hit each other, can we trust them with guns? There will be deaths all over. So until they style up, there would be no need for guns.
Prudent.
I think it's totally out of touch. I think right now already there is a lot of security. I mean, of security apparatus has been committed to VIP security.
Yeah.
And I think another 2,000, 3,000, 2,000 plus MCAs, it will be overstretching the capacity of the country. So I think what I concur with Ambrose Weda, that we need to improve the security of the country generally. I was in Germany. I've been to many other countries. You see some of the senior-most members of the public service in those countries walking, taking the train, and I think that's the kind of aspirations we should have. So we may be seeing you doing the same? Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
All right.
Time will come.
Time will come.
We must do that.
Senior Ambrose Weda, thank you for being with us.
And Senator.
And Senator Hassan Omar. Senior Senator.
Junior.
Thank you, and wish you a lovely day. And we'll see you next week. The wait is for you this morning. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Morning Express. In the next few minutes, we will talk to some young people who are doing amazing things in our lifestyle segment. We seek to inspire you. Some young entrepreneurs coming up. Stay with us.